So I'm in the middle of a shoot with my trusty Leica M7 the other day when the thing just up and dies. I mean, actually stops working mid-shoot. So rather than try to troubleshoot and figure out what was going on with the camera, I decided it best to reach for the next best thing. What's going on YouTube? I hope you guys are having an amazing day. My name is Quintavius Oliver, and before we get started, I want to wish everyone watching a very happy new year. Congratulations, you guys have officially survived the fustercluck that was 2020, and we've all made it to 2021 here together. And as long as we're here together, I want to ask you guys to do me a favor, smash that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with anyone who you think could benefit from knowledge about these cheap little point and shoot cameras, because I'm having a blast with them. Before we go any further though, I do want to clarify that my Leica M7 is a-okay. The battery died, and that was it. Something that I was unfamiliar with because in the 5 or 6 years that I've owned this camera, I think I've only had to change the battery once, maybe twice before. But be warned, if you do find yourself in possession of one of these magical unicorns of a camera, they're great, but they are battery operated. That's not why we're here today. We are here because over the last 2 weeks, I've completely replaced all of my working cameras with point and shoots to see if I could actually get any serious work done, or if this could be a good or viable backup in the event that something happens to one of my working cameras. And spoiler alert, no. But I did have a great time working with these things, and there's a lot of applications where I would actually pull one of these out for some serious work. This is a $10 point and shoot made by Ilford, complete with a roll of Ilford HP5 metered for 400 ISO. If you guys are familiar with any of my last videos, you'll know that Ilford HP5 is one of my favorite films. I absolutely love this stuff. So it'll come as no surprise that this camera right here is something that I will keep in my pocket for a very long time. It is reminiscent to a much more simple time in our lives because there's only the operation of holding it up and snapping a picture. There is this little button right here on the front for you to operate the flash. And that's the only thing I don't quite enjoy about this camera. See, when I was a kid, we had these point and shoot cameras that were a lot like this, but you could hold this button down and then release it and the flash would still operate. With this one, however, you have to maintain that hold on that button in order to make a picture, which makes making selfies or self-portraits with this camera very difficult. But it's a $10 point and shoot, so that's neither here nor there. I feel like there are other tools you can get the jobs done with. Aside from that though, there's not really much else to talk about aside from image quality. Now this is a plastic camera, so I don't expect a whole lot from it, but when I shot this next to my Leica M7, I was pleasantly surprised to see that the pictures that came out of this gave me more of a genuine feeling than a deliberate look. I shot 2 different models in the same place with more or less the same lighting, and with this I just held down the button, made a picture, and didn't think anything of it. It really kept me in the moment, allowed me to have fun and really enjoy what was happening rather than worry about my settings or what the picture was gonna look like after the fact or in post. With the Leica, it's just kind of that give and take. You know you're gonna get sharp pictures, you know they're gonna be punchy and contrasty, and that's exactly what I got. It did everything it was supposed to do. Now I didn't use a flash with this, I actually held a flashlight up under it and kind of shot two-handed with that, so that was a little bit awkward, but the picture still came out great. I do think though they have more of a deliberate look than the genuine feeling that I got out of this, and I really enjoy that genuine feeling. So if you're just gonna hang out with some friends, maybe go to a movie or go to a bar or something like that, just hanging out in the park, I think these little cameras are perfect for that. Would I use it for any serious work? Unless my client really wanted that nostalgic kind of laid back look, I would pick this up all day long. But there is some merit to this camera, and I wanted to see if there was anything more that I could get out of this. Now, this camera is not reloadable. It is a traditional 35mm point and shoot camera, but Lomography actually makes these reusable cameras. And I picked these two up, and I actually had a lot of fun with these. This one is loaded with Lomography Metropolis, and if you've checked out my top 5 favorite films, I talked a lot about this film. This film is really cool. It is not your average standard everyday color film at all. It does give you a really nice muted kind of gritty look, and I really enjoy shooting this with my Leica M7. On the back of the package right here, you can actually see they give you some examples of what this film will look like. A couple of examples here on the side and on the front. And I was really hoping to get that same look that I got out of Metropolis when I shot it out of my Leica. Now, a lot of you guys might be saying, well, it's a plastic disposable camera. How could you expect something like that? You see, the film itself isn't actually going to change when it's exposed to light. It's the lens or the camera itself that's going to change the way that that picture is drawn. But the picture itself, more or less when it comes to the color or the feeling, isn't going to change, or at least it shouldn't. If I shoot Portra 400 in this camera right here and then shoot it in my L35 AF, that picture is going to look more or less the same. Maybe the Leica's a little bit sharper, maybe I get a little more depth because I've got a wider aperture, but other than that, Portra 400 or Portra 160 or Tri-X or T-Max is going to look pretty much the same no matter what camera you put it in. That was not the case with this little guy right here. And I tried everything from using these cool little filters that they give you to put over the flash. They give you some funky color effects, but I didn't really find that useful as the film in this camera kind of sucked. It was not the Lomography Metropolis that I had fallen in love with. I did not get the results that I wanted, and I was very unhappy with that. On the other hand though, using the Lady Gray film that comes in this black and white camera right here, it's actually pretty cool. You see on the back of the package here, that film is pretty punchy and pretty contrasty. I think they give a couple of other examples on here. And this is my first time using the Lady Gray film, and I think it's a spectacular film. Would I use it every day? Probably not, but I think I got some really cool, really moody results out of that. And I think the results that I got out of this camera definitely reflected what was on the box. There is one cool thing about both of these cameras though. Even if you don't get the results you want out of the film that comes in them, these cameras happen to be disposable cameras that are in fact reusable. So just like any other regular point and shoot camera, you can hit this little switch right here and pop open the back. And there are some instructions on the back here that will teach you how to do that. So it's not a really complicated process. It is kind of reverse on what you might be used to. You pop the film into the camera, close it, and then you actually wind the film manually out of the canister, because every time you advance with that advancing dial right here, that film goes back into the camera. So that's a little awkward, but you get used to it. It's pretty simple. It takes maybe a minute to do. But when you put something like Portra 400 in this camera right here, this camera really does give results that are indicative of what a disposable camera should be able to give you. I really enjoyed shooting Portra 400 with this camera. It gave me everything that I thought Portra should be, which is really weird because I've shot a lot of Metropolis. And the Metropolis that I shoot in my Leica did not look like this at all. The other thing that I will say about these cameras is even though there is a flash on them, they're awful in low light. They will not give you any good results. You've really got to get in super close to whatever or whoever you're going to photograph, and even then it might still not work. This is not a camera for serious everyday use, but it is a camera that you can use and have a lot of fun with, especially if you want to keep having that type of fun and don't want to have to spend the money on more disposable cameras. Just pop the back open on one of these, put film in here that actually does look good, and have a blast with it. If you guys have any other recommendations or any questions about these disposable cameras or any experience with them on your own, definitely leave a comment below, leave a tag or leave your link or your Instagram or something like that. I'd love to check out your work that you guys have shot with these things because I think they're pretty fun. I think they're pretty cool. And I would love to see more people using simple tools like this to create amazing work. But until next time, I hope you guys stay safe, stay sane. Peace.